In this set of lecture videos, I'm going to be describing the process by which a bill becomes a law. And hopefully you figured this out by now, but this is a perfect example of why the lectures are based on my videos and the reading questions are based on the book. There aren't any reading questions associated with this set of lecture videos because there's no chapter on how a bill becomes a law. I just personally think it's important for students to know the process and understand the differences between the House and the Senate. So after this lecture, you'll be able to describe the process by which a bill becomes a law in the House and the Senate. And in particular, you'll see some of the ways in which they're similar and some of the ways in which they're different. You'll also be able to explain the important role of the Rules Committee in the House of Representatives. You'll be able to explain the significance of invoking cloture in the United States Senate. And you'll be able to explain the role of the Conference Committee when a bill is becoming a law. And then lastly, you'll be able to describe the 5 possible outcomes once a bill has passed Congress and arrives on the desk of the president. Now, I want to start a disclaimer here before I do what I'm about to do. I've always started all my lectures on how a bill becomes a law the same way. I show the Schoolhouse Rock version of how a bill becomes a law. Now, depending on where you grew up, you may or may not have seen the Schoolhouse Rock version. If you have seen it, this is probably going to be a trip down like memory lane. It's kind of nostalgic. If you haven't seen it, just know that this is something that a lot of young people in America grew up with and saw when they were growing up. I know it's a cartoon, but it's actually a pretty good version and description of how a bill becomes a law, although obviously my version is going to be a little more sophisticated. But with that in mind, here you go. For some of you, a trip down memory lane. For others, sort of an introduction to political culture in America. So here's how a bill becomes a law, the Schoolhouse Rock version.
Woo, you sure gotta climb a lot of steps to get to this Capitol building here in Washington. Well, I wonder who that sad little scrap of paper is.
I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee, but I know I'll be a law someday. At least I hope and pray that I will, but today I am still just a bill.
Gee, Bill, you certainly have a lot of patience and courage.
Well, I got this far. When I started, I wasn't even a bill. I was just an idea. Some folks back home decided they wanted a law passed, so they called their local congressman, and he said, "You're right, there ought to be a law." Then he sat down and wrote me out and introduced me to Congress, and I became a bill. And I'll remain a bill until they decide to make me a law. I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I got as far as Capitol Hill. Well, now I'm stuck in committee, and I'll sit here and wait while a few key congressmen discuss and debate whether they should let me be a law. I hope and pray that they will, but today I am still just a bill.
Listen to those congressmen arguing. Is all that discussion and debate about you?
Yeah, I'm one of the lucky ones. Most bills never even get this far. I hope they decide to report on me favorably, otherwise I may die.
Die?
Yeah, die in committee. Oh, but it looks like I'm going to live. Now I go to the House of Representatives and they vote on me.
If they vote yes, what happens?
Then I go to the Senate and the whole thing starts all over again.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And if they vote for me on Capitol Hill, well, then I'm off to the White House where I'll wait in a line with a lot of other bills for the president to sign. And if he signs me, then I'll be a law. How I hope and pray that he will. But today I am still just a bill.
You mean even if the whole Congress says you should be a law, the president can still say no?
Yes, that's called a veto. If the president vetoes me, I have to go back to Congress and they vote on me again, and by that time you're so
By
old.
that time, it's very unlikely that you'll become a law. It's not easy to become a law, is it?
No, but how I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill.
He signed your bill. Now you're a law.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. Some of you may actually be a little confused. I do want to say one thing though. A while ago, I was showing this video, and a student took great offense to this because she felt as though I was, I guess, being condescending. Like, here, let me show you a cartoon because you can't understand this really complicated how a bill becomes a law stuff. That's not at all why I show the video. I show the video because I like the video. It does actually a pretty good job. And I enjoy when we are having in-person classes, I enjoy watching the faces of students who grew up watching this. They get smiles on their faces. Some of them will mouth the words to the song. And so it's just an enjoyable thing all around. And so there's nothing condescending about it at all. That's not my intention. It's fun. And so if you read anything more into that, or if I inadvertently hurt your feelings, or you felt like you were being condescended to, my deepest apologies. That's not at all what was going on. I'm a political scientist. You hear the way I talk, oftentimes in complicated, sophisticated terms, and then sometimes I just like watching cartoons, okay? So with that in mind, what we're going to do now is a more rigorous version of talking about how a bill becomes a law. For the purposes of this set of lecture videos, we're going to assume that this bill is going from the House of Representatives to the Senate. Now, bills don't all have to go that way. Some bills can start in the Senate and then go to the House. Bills that raise revenue have to start in the House and go to the Senate, but other bills can start in either chamber and go to the next. For the purposes of this discussion, we're going to assume that I'm a senator or a member of Congress from the state of Nebraska. I'm on the Agricultural Committee, and I have a bill that I'm going to refer to as Phil's Corn Law, just because I couldn't come up with anything more creative. And you'll see that it's designated Phil's Corn Law subscript 1, and I'll show you why in a moment. The other thing that I want to let you know about is I'm going to be talking about how a bill becomes a law, but part of the way through, I'm going to add some additional information about the process that's actually going to become relevant when we talk about the presidency. And so I will let you know when we get there and try and make it less confusing, but I want to warn you ahead of time. So if I haven't already confused you now, you're doing great. So when a bill is introduced in the House of Representatives, there's actually a little wooden box referred to as the hopper, where the member of Congress, in this case member of the House, would drop the bill in the hopper. The Speaker of the House is the presiding officer in the House of Representatives. And what the Speaker of the House would do is she would take Phil's Corn Law and look at it, and because of the content of the bill, she would send it to the Agricultural Committee, right? Because that's part of their jurisdiction, whatever my corn law is. Now, just as an aside, one of the things that a speaker can do, and sometimes I will refer to the Speaker of the House as just the Speaker, one of the things that the Speaker can do is what's called a single referral. The Speaker can also do a multiple referral. A single referral is when the Speaker decides to send the bill to one committee, and that committee alone is the one that's going to work on the bill. The speaker can also do what's called a multiple referral. So let's imagine for a moment Phil's corn law deals not only with regulating corn, but there's also some significant portion of it that deals with the transportation of corn. One of the things that the Speaker of the House can do is say this bill is first going to go to the Transportation Committee, and then when they're done with it, then it'll go to the Agricultural Committee, or she can reverse it. The bill can go to the Agricultural Committee, and then it can go to the Transportation Committee. For the purposes of our discussion, we're going to assume that Phil's corn law got a single referral. And so the Speaker of the House looks at the content of the bill and sends it to the Agricultural Committee. The next step in the process is the chair of the Agricultural Committee is going to look at the bill and decide which one of the subcommittees is the appropriate committee to hear this bill. Now, what do I mean by hear this bill? When the bill goes to the subcommittee, one of the things that the subcommittee is going to do is they're going to hold hearings. That is, they're going to look at the bill, the content of the bill, and they're going to invite different interest groups, like we talked about before when we talked about the importance of interest groups in terms of providing information. They're going to invite interest groups to come in and tell the committee, the subcommittee in this case, what they think about the bill. What do they like about it? What do they think should be taken out of the bill? What should be added to the bill that was not included? They're going to make all these suggestions. Members of the subcommittee are going to be taking notes and talking about things. And once they're done with all the hearings, once people have come in and testified and gave their opinions on the bill, then the committee is going to do what's called a markup. And the reason it's called a markup is because they're going to mark up the bill. Sort of like when you hand in an English paper, right? You print it up and you hand in the English paper and you get it back and there's all kind of marks on the bill. Don't do this, suggestions for how to improve it. They're going to mark up the bill. They're going to add some things. They're going to subtract some things. Maybe they're going to change the wording on some things. All that's what's going to happen. So some people are going to propose amendments to the bill. Now, an amendment can be something that you propose to add to the bill, but amendment can also be something that you propose to take from the bill. Like there's a section in there that you don't like and you propose an amendment. I say we remove section C-1, whatever that happens to be. And then if it passes, that's taken out of the bill. Or you can, after listening to the interest groups, you might say, I think we should add a section to the bill. And then they'll propose new wording that should be added and where it should be added, and they'll debate it and discuss it, and then they'll vote on it. And if a majority supports it, it gets added to the bill. So they'll just keep working on the bill and tinkering with the bill until they're done. And at some point in time, they'll vote on it. And we're going to assume for the sake of discussion that the majority decides that they support Phil's corn law, and so now it's gone to the subcommittee, but now it's going to go to the full committee. Now, before we move on, you'll see that I have something that says popcorn amendment fails to get majority support. This is one of the things that I'm going to talk to you about that we're going to discuss back when we cover the presidency. During the markup, somebody proposes to amend the bill, and this is what their amendment is. They want to change the bill so that every time it talks about regulating corn, they want to put in the words corn and popcorn. Whoever is proposing this amendment wants to regulate corn and popcorn. And so there's a debate in the committee about this popcorn amendment, and after they debate it and discuss it, they vote on it, and it gets voted down. The majority doesn't support it, so it doesn't get put into the bill. Okay, that's all you need to know. The popcorn amendment failed. It did not get majority support. So it's gone in the subcommittee, And now, because the bill in its current form got majority support, it's going to go to the full committee. When it goes to the full committee is going to basically do the same thing that the subcommittee did. Now remember, the full committee is larger than the subcommittee. It includes everybody on the agriculture committee. But what they're going to do is they're going to take all the different versions and the form that Phil's Corn Law 1 came out of the committee with the amendments and the changes and the things. They're going to send it out to interest groups and invite them in to give their opinion on this new version of the bill, right? And they're going to debate it. They're going to have a markup. They're going to do all that. And we're going to assume for the sake of discussion that a majority supports it. Now, in the House of Representatives, if the subcommittee supports the bill and the full committee supports the bill, the next place it goes is to something called the Rules Committee. And I'll talk about that in the next video.